John, let's talk about safe withdrawal rates. So, there's been a lot of research and thought about what are safe withdrawal rates. That means how much of your portfolio or your money can you take out each year? And I know you've got a lot to say about it, and there's recommendations that are all over the board. And let's try to help people make sense of this. All right. I'm Bridget Sullivan Mermel. I've got a family financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
I'm John Shear. I've got a fee only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. And before I jump in and start talking about this safe withdrawal rate, I want to remind everybody hit that subscribe button, give us a like, let other people find this stuff on YouTube. And with that, so many things, Bridget, rules of thumb or guidelines are, not super useful, but this is one that I think actually is really useful. And I love how you described it in the intro, sort of like, how much can I take out? Like, that's what people want to know, right? Like, how much do I need so I can take out the stuff I want to take out, right? And live the life I want to live, right? It's
Right.
really, I guess, retirement planning at its most fundamental. What is that number on things? And so, historically, going back, I think this goes back into the 1990s. A guy named Bill Bengen had done research and took a look at various market cycles going back, 80 or 100 years and said, what if I just have half stocks and half in bonds? How much can I take out and never have to worry about running out of money in all those cycles? And he had come up with basically 4%. And so in our world, that's been known for, 20 plus years as the 4% rule. Well, you can take out
Right.
about 4% of your money, right? And what that 4% means too, we were just talking about it a little bit
Right.
earlier before we hit record, is that 4% means I'll use some round numbers because I can do math easy, more easily. If I have $1 million and I'm going to retire, I can take out 4%. So 4% of a million is $40,000. That's my starting withdrawal rate. And then I take that $40,000. I don't care how much my portfolio can go to 10 million, it can go down to 100,000. I take out $40,000 a year every year and keep it up with inflation, right?
Okay.
So that, yeah, jump
Now
in.
stop. Okay. So stop here. So, first year, easy calculation, right? We got
Yep.
$1 million. We're taking out 40. Okay. Now, year two, let's say it's still $1 million, but inflation is 2%. Do I take 2% of the million
No,
or
2% of the
2% of the
40.
40? Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So that
Yep.
means
So my
40,800. Is that
so my
right?
spending goes up with inflation. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. But it's just that amount. It's not 2% of the
Yep.
whole. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, and
Then
that's a
I
really important
say,
point. Yeah.
so then I say the next year, again, it's like 3%. So then I take the 40,800 and multiply it 1.03, and that's how I get my next rate.
Yep. Yep. And for people, no, that's a great explanation because, and that's the thing that sometimes people mistake is say, oh, I get to take 4% of my portfolio, my money every year. Like that's, I mean, that maybe is practically how we do things, but that's not how this methodology measures things, right? So
Yeah,
it's just
but that's
important to
not
know the
how they
methodology.
came up with that. That's not how this study
Right.
was run.
Right.
Okay.
And you think about this inflation thing, that's a really great point. So for people that are getting Social Security, you get, $2,346 a month. And then a year from now, Social Security says, "Hey, inflation comes out and it was 2.8%." Well, then they take 2.8% more, so your Social Security goes up by that. Your payment goes up by that inflation amount, right? And Social Security does that for us. That's how this study has been done as well, is that sort of thing, right? So you got to do some. I mean, if you're actually going to do this in practice, you have to do some convoluted math every year to figure it out, right? So it's important
Totally.
to know this is not a suggestion of, hey, do this math every year and follow this rule exactly to how the science or the research was done. But it's important to know how that research got done. So you go, oh, this is what they're talking about when they talk
Right.
about this.
Right.
Yeah.
So the research that you were talking about said that there's a new study that says gee whiz, probably 5% is fine.
I don't think that they actually said gee
Or did
whiz
they
in the
rerun the
study, but they
numbers? Yeah.
might have. So this is the exact, so Bengen, the same guy, came back in and said that 4% rule we came up with, that was in all the circumstances that you never ran out of money, right? So it's not necessarily, oh, that's the rule to use. That means there's zero chance in any of his research that you run out. So maybe you could take out some more than that if you're willing to be flexible on things, right? So then recently here in the last couple of years, he's written a new book and he said, you know what? I look back on these things and rather than just using S&P 500 and bonds, what if we had a more diversified portfolio like you and I would put together for clients? And what if
Right.
we had some small company stocks? What if we had some international stocks? What if we had some cash and bonds and really made it what we would consider a diversified
Right.
portfolio and ran the same calculations with a diversified portfolio? What's our starting rate? What is our starting percentage? And he came in with something along the lines of 4.7 or just under 5% as the safe withdrawal rate.
And
And you
safe
think, okay,
meaning works 100% of the time.
100% of the time.
Right.
Yep. Yep. And we'll put a link there in the show notes here. There's an article that has some graphics and things. And I think yeah, it's 90 at 5%, it's 98% of the time. At 4.68%, it's 100%. So I like round numbers. Like 5% is like, okay, you never have to change that pattern,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so
It doesn't matter. There's a huge recession and nobody wants to spend any money. So what?
no,
I'm
you keep
still
on doing that
going to.
same thing every year.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's a great point with this whole thing in general. I think, as you just said, what if we go back to, oh 07, oh 08, oh 09, when there's a huge recession and things? And what this says is, I'm going to keep increasing my spending no matter what happens, no matter what happens to my portfolio, right? If it gets cut by 40%, I'm going to keep on spending more and more and more every year. Like that's not how most of us work in reality, right? They go like, oh, I'm willing to pull in my horns a little bit if things change, right? Like that sort of thought process. But before, I just want to point out one thing too. You go like, oh, it was 4%, now it's 5%. Big deal. What's 1%? Well, that if you think about it, going from 4 to 5, that's actually a 25% increase in
right.
spending. That's like going from 40,000 to $50,000 a year. That's a big jump, right? It sounds like only 1%, but that's a big change in spending. And that's if there's zero risk of running out of money, at least historically speaking. We can take a look on that little chart that's here, and if you go to 6%, that means that 75% of the time, that bar means 75% of the time you did not have to make any changes whatsoever,
And
right? And so
it's
you go like,
6% plus inflation.
plus, right? That's inflation. That's just
So that
six
means
percent
you
to
might
start,
be
and keep up with
increasing your
them.
spending by 9% a year often. Like,
It happens, right?
you
Right.
know, like
And so
8 or 9%, that you're just, yeah.
that 75% means that, hey, 3 out of 4 times you don't have to change. That means 1 out of 4 times you might have to make a change down the road. You go, oh, wait a minute. It's not 1 out of 4 times you run out of money and crash a plane into the mountain, right? It's 1 out of 4 times, hey, you must make some adjustments. You go, oh, but in exchange for being willing to be flexible, you get to take out 50% more than we were talking about before. Oh, yeah, that kind of makes some sense, right?
Yeah. So, can I start talking about my problems with this way of thinking?
Absolutely. Tell me your problem,
All
Bridget.
right. Here's, let me tell you my first problem is that it really doesn't optimize your life in retirement
Oh,
because
yeah.
typically people enjoy spending more when they're at the beginning of retirement. And once they get to 80, if they're lucky enough to make it to the 80, 90, and not everybody does, then it's been there, done that. Now you don't want to run out of money there, or you don't want to need a lot of care and not be able to afford it. But as you get older, the chance of needing a lot of care and not being able to afford it diminishes because how long are you going to live? You
Right,
just have,
right.
less time to live. So it's not optimizing your living.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just trying to be steady, like just
yeah,
make a
yeah,
rule that's just steady, right?
yeah.
And so what I see with people is like some years people want to take their big trip, but they want to have a trip for their have a big celebration for their anniversary for their whole family. And so they spend a
Yep.
lot. They spend more than, you know, more than my 6% plus inflation. They just spend a lot that year. But then the
Right,
next year, they don't, it goes down.
right, right,
Then the next year there's an illness. They don't spend anything really, because they're at home just trying to recuperate.
right,
And
right.
everything's covered by Medicare and Medicaid. So it's that's my problem with this. Well, with these kinds of rules that it doesn't take into account how you're actually living your life. And I think people need to grapple with this one particular issue. And that is, are they going to feel a lot safer and have a lot better sense of security and sleep better at night in retirement if they never spend down their nest egg? So they retire with 2 million and they got 2 million always.
Mm-hmm.
Or are they willing to spend down some of their nest egg? Is that okay with them? Would they really like? The problem with the 2 million people is that it keeps, they don't take out enough. It keeps growing. And then they actually are like in their 80s trying to figure out who to donate to, who to give money. You know, they're like, not it, and that can be okay. But for a lot of people, it's really not optimal.
Right,
You
right.
know, and then their kids are like, we're fine, mom. We don't, or dad, we don't need all this. This is giving us a lot of complications.
Yeah.
So it's those are the things that I'm curious about. Like, how do you actually have a conversation with people? And do they have the self-knowledge to even know when they retire? Because a lot of times your opinion changes as you go along. Like,
Yeah.
am I
Yeah.
comfortable spending down this money, or do I need to keep my nest egg intact? I don't want it to go lower. And I'll just take what's ever on the top that year. Because I think from
Yeah.
a practical standpoint, that's what people really do.
Yeah, yeah. No, you might be surprised to find out I agree with you on this, is I think this is a terrible way to handle spending
Right.
in retirement. But I think it's a great way to figure out, hey, am I in a position where I can retire and this
Right.
will work? Right?
Oh,
So
that's a
this
good
is,
point.
do I have enough? When will I have enough? Well, how much do you think you're going to spend your first year of retirement? I'm going to spend this much money. All right. And then take Social Security and things and go, all right, well, if I can take out 5 or 6%
5%.
or
Yeah.
something, four,
Probably
five,
six.
six
Yeah.
percent, all right, a million. Okay, so I need to have about this much money to produce the money. Okay, good. I'm on track. I'm in a position where that gives me a target for retirement. Getting into retirement is a whole different story. Like, I don't think it
Right.
works at all for this, for the reasons you just described, right? Like, it just doesn't work. But for the idea of like, well, how much do I need? How do I know when I'm able to retire? What's my target? Like, that's where I see this as being useful when I talk with perhaps a new client or somebody or a friend and go like, well, tell me how much you want to spend, how much you got. Like, okay, I can kind of tell you, yeah, you're in pretty good shape, man, right? You can retire when that math kind of works out. But
Hmm.
then doing it, right? Doing it, that's where that's where the skill comes in. That's where the rule of thumb doesn't work, I think. So
I see.
that's yeah, yeah.
So you say use it before to estimate and when can I retire? And then once you retire, say, okay, we got to think about this differently. Let's
Then you
pivot.
got to dig in.
This is
Yep. Then
not,
it's
yeah,
different for everybody, right? Like
yeah,
that's a rule of thumb is good to estimate. Hey, am I on track? What's my target?
right.
What's some of those big companies? What's my retirement
What's my
number?
number?
Like that,
Yeah.
like
What's my
that
number?
gives you okay your number. You don't need a whatever little path or whatever. Like no, hey, use that rule of thumb and then make sure that you do make it specific for you, right? For your goals, for your emotions, all those things that you just described.
Great, cool. Well, it's a great time to wrap it up. I'm Bridget Sullivan Ramel. I've got a family financial planning practice in Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm John Shear. I've got a fee-only financial planning practice in Middleton, Wisconsin. Both Bridget and I are taking on new clients. We'd love to hear from you if you like what you hear on our show. But if you'd like to find somebody in your area who thinks like us, we're both members of the Alliance of Comprehensive Planners, and you can find an advisor in your area at acplanners.org.
Don't forget to subscribe.